The champagne flute trembled in my hand, condensation sliding down the crystal like tears I refused to shed. Around me, the hotel ballroom hummed with that particular frequency of wealth, hushed voices punctuated by crystalline laughter, the whisper of silk against marble, the ghost of expensive perfume mingling with imported roses. I stood near the entrance, invisible in my simple black dress, watching Chicago's elite celebrate a union I should have been part of, my ex-fiancé's wedding, to my former best friend. The irony tasted like copper on my tongue. I hadn't planned to come. For 3 months, since Marcus handed me back the modest engagement ring my grandmother left me, the only valuable thing my family ever owned, I'd convinced myself I was over it. Over him. Over the humiliation of discovering he'd been sleeping with Vivian behind my back for nearly a year. Over the whispers that followed me through our shared social circles, the pitying glances, the way people stopped inviting me to things because my presence made everyone uncomfortable. But then, the invitation arrived. Cream cardstock, embossed with gold lettering, my name written in elegant calligraphy that probably cost more than my monthly rent. Ms. Elena Reyes, we request the honor of your presence. Vivian's doing. I knew immediately. Marcus didn't have that kind of cruelty in him. He was merely weak, easily led. But Vivian, she wanted to see me broken, wanted to parade her victory, to watch me sit in those pews and witness her claiming everything that should have been mine. The smart thing would have been to throw it away. Stay home. Move on. Instead, I'd put on the one decent dress I owned, applied makeup with shaking hands, and took 3 buses across the city to the Meridian Grand Hotel, because some self-destructive part of me needed to prove I could survive it. I was such a fool. The ballroom doors opened wider, and guests began filtering toward their seats. I recognized most of them, Marcus's colleagues from the investment firm, Vivian's sorority sisters, the country club crowd who'd tolerated me when I was Marcus's fiancé, but forgot my name the moment we ended. I smoothed down my dress, suddenly aware of how cheap the fabric was, how the hem was slightly frayed, how I didn't belong here at all. Elena? I turned to find Marcus's mother, Patricia, gliding toward me in a cloud of Chanel and disapproval. Her eyes swept over me with the efficiency of an X-ray machine, cataloging every inadequacy. "I'm surprised you came," she said, her voice pitched just loud enough for nearby guests to hear. "Given the circumstances, how brave of you." The word brave landed like a slap. "I was invited," I managed, hating how small my voice sounded. "Yes. Well." Patricia's smile was all edges. "Vivian does have a generous spirit. Always has. I told Marcus from the beginning that you two weren't suited, but young men can be so blind to incompatibility." Her gaze dropped to my dress again, lingering on the department store label probably visible at the neckline. I'm glad he finally saw sense. "Vivian comes from the right sort of family, you understand." I understood perfectly. I was the daughter of a housekeeper and a mechanic who died when I was 16. My mother cleaned homes in the suburbs while I put myself through community college working double shifts at a diner. Marcus had been slumming when he dated me. His rebellious phase before settling down with someone appropriate, someone like Vivian, whose father owned half the city's real estate. "If you'll excuse me," I whispered, turning toward the ballroom. "The ceremony's about to start," Patricia called after me. "Your seat is in the back, the very back." Of course it was. I walked through those doors with my spine straight and my chin up, even as whispers followed me like wasps. The ballroom was obscene in its opulence, crystal chandeliers dripping light onto silk-draped chairs, white roses exploding from golden vases, a string quartet playing something classical and melancholy in the corner. The guests were already seated, a sea of designer suits and cocktail dresses worth more than my yearly salary, and at the front, beside the flower-laden arch, stood Marcus. My chest tightened. He looked good. He always did. Tall, athletic, the kind of conventional handsome that opened doors. His tuxedo was custom-made, probably Italian. His dark hair was perfectly styled. He was laughing at something his best man said, completely at ease, entirely happy. He hadn't looked like that with me in months. I found my assigned seat, last row, aisle seat, positioned perfectly for a quick, unnoticed exit, and sank into it. The woman next to me shifted away slightly, as if failure might be contagious. I stared straight ahead, forcing my breathing to steady, reminding myself that in 2 hours this would be over. I could survive 2 hours. The music changed, shifting into the wedding march. Everyone stood. I stood too, my legs mechanical, my hands clenched at my sides, and then Vivian appeared. She was radiant. There was no other word. Her dress was a waterfall of ivory silk and lace, probably custom Vera Wang, her dark hair swept into an elegant updo, a diamond tiara catching the light. She moved down the aisle like she owned it, which, given her family's wealth, she probably did. Her smile confident, victorious. When she passed my brow, her eyes found mine. She winked. The gesture was so quick, so subtle, that no one else caught it. But I saw the triumph, the malice, the pure satisfaction of destroying me. My vision blurred. I blinked hard, refusing to cry, refusing to give her that satisfaction. But my chest was caving in, my throat closing, and I knew I couldn't sit through this ceremony. Couldn't watch them exchange vows, couldn't smile through the reception. Couldn't survive the inevitable moment when Vivian would corner me in the bathroom or by the champagne fountain to twist the knife deeper. I'd made a mistake coming here. As Vivian reached the altar and took Marcus's hands, I slipped out of my seat and moved toward the exit, keeping my steps quiet, my head down. No one noticed. Why would they? I was already a ghost. The hallway outside the ballroom was blessedly empty, all the hotel staff focused on the ceremony inside. I hurried toward the main lobby, my heels clicking against marble, my breathing coming faster. I just needed to get outside, catch a bus, go home. Forget this ever. I collided with something solid. Not something, someone. The impact knocked me backward, my heel catching on my dress. I stumbled, arms windmilling, certain I was about to fall and complete my humiliation. But a hand caught my elbow, steadying me with effortless strength. Careful. The voice was low, accented with something European I couldn't place, and it sent an inexplicable shiver down my spine. I looked up. And up. The man towering over me was not someone who should exist outside of magazines or movies. He was tall, easily 6'3" or 6'4", with the kind of build that suggested violence held barely in check. His suit was black, perfectly tailored, probably worth more than my car. Everything about him screamed money, but not the cheerful, ostentatious wealth of the wedding guests inside. This was different, darker, dangerous. His face was all sharp angles, strong jaw, high cheekbones, a nose that had been broken at least once. His hair was dark, pushed back from his forehead, and his eyes. God, his eyes were the color of smoke, gray and cold and utterly unreadable. They fixed on me with an intensity that made my breath catch. "I'm sorry," I stammered, pulling away from his grip. "I wasn't watching where You're crying." It wasn't a question. I reached up, shocked to find my cheeks wet. "When had I started crying? I'm fine," I lied, wiping at my face. "Sorry, excuse me." I tried to move past him, but he didn't step aside. Behind him, I noticed for the first time, stood 2 men in dark suits. They weren't hotel staff. Their posture was too alert, too watchful, their eyes constantly scanning the hallway. Security. Private security. Who was this man? "The wedding," he said, glancing toward the ballroom doors. "You were inside." "I was leaving." I clutched my small purse tighter. "Please, I just need to—" "Your ex-fiancé's wedding?" The question froze me. How could he possibly know that? He must have read the confusion on my face because something that might have been amusement flickered in those gray eyes. "You have the look of someone attending their own funeral, and you're leaving before the vows." His gaze traveled over me, clinical, assessing, the rejected bride. Heat flooded my cheeks. "I don't know who you are, but Dante." He extended his hand. Dante Salvatore. The name meant nothing to me, but the way he said it, like he expected recognition, made my stomach clench. I didn't take his hand. "I really need to go," I said. "To where? Home?" He tilted his head slightly. "Or are you going to stand outside in the cold, wait for your bus, and spend the next year remembering this as the moment they broke you completely?" The words hit like bullets, because he was right. That's exactly what would happen. "What do you want?" I asked, my voice cracking. Dante Salvatore smiled then. A slow, predatory curve of his mouth that did nothing to warm those cold eyes. "I want to offer you an alternative," he said. "How would you like to go back into that wedding as someone else entirely? Someone they can't touch, can't humiliate, can't destroy." I stared at him. "What are you talking about?" "I'm talking about revenge, Elena." He said my name like he'd known it all along. "The kind that will haunt them forever. Are you interested?" Every instinct screamed at me to run. This man was danger incarnate. I could feel it radiating from him like heat from flames. Whatever he was offering, it couldn't be real, couldn't be safe. But God help me. I wanted it. "How?" I whispered. His smile widened, and I felt the world tilt beneath my feet. "Marry me." The logical part of my brain, the part that had gotten me through community college while working full-time, the part that balanced my mother's medical bills and grocery money, the part that survived Marcus's betrayal, was screaming at me to walk away. Marry a complete stranger, a man whose name I didn't even recognize, whose eyes held secrets dark enough to drown in, whose mere presence made the air feel thinner. Insanity. But the other part of me, the part that had been humiliated, discarded, made invisible, that part whispered, "Why not?" "You're insane," I said. But my voice lacked conviction. Dante's expression didn't change, perhaps. "But you're still standing here, which means you're considering it. I don't even know you. You could be a—" I gestured helplessly at him, at the two silent men flanking him like sentries. "A criminal, a psychopath, all distinct possibilities," he agreed, maddeningly calm. "But right now, in this moment, I'm the only person offering you a way out of your humiliation. So the question isn't who I am, Elena. The question is, how much more can you endure?" I hated that he was right, hated the tears still wet on my cheeks, hated the trembling in my hands, hated that Vivian's wink had shattered what little composure I'd managed to construct. "Why?" I demanded. "Why would you do this? You don't know me. What could you possibly gain from—" "Does it matter?" He cut me off, checking his watch, a sleek piece of machinery that probably cost more than my car. "You have approximately 4 minutes before the ceremony ends and those guests flood this lobby. 4 minutes to decide whether you walk out of here as the pathetic ex-girlfriend they all pity or as someone they'll never forget." The word pathetic stung because it was exactly how I felt. "This is crazy," I whispered. But my feet weren't moving toward the exit. Dante stepped closer, and I caught his scent, something expensive and masculine. Leather and cedar and smoke. "I have a car waiting outside. A penthouse apartment with a view of the lake. A closet full of designer clothes that will fit you perfectly." His voice dropped lower, intimate, dangerous. "And a jeweler who can have a ring on your finger in less than an hour. All you have to do is say yes." "But why?" I pressed. "What do you want from me?" Something flickered in those gray eyes. Something that might have been pain or anger or both. Let's call it a mutually beneficial arrangement. You get your revenge. I get— He paused, his jaw tightening almost imperceptibly. "I get what I need. The details can be discussed later. Right now, you need to choose." From inside the ballroom, I heard the officiant's voice rising. "I now pronounce you husband and wife." Time was up. I thought of Vivian's triumphant smile, Patricia's casual cruelty, the whispers that would follow me for months, years, the weight of being the woman who wasn't good enough, who never would be good enough, who deserved to be replaced. I thought of going home to my studio apartment, crawling into bed, and spending the rest of my life as a cautionary tale. And then I looked at Dante Salvatore, this stranger with his dangerous eyes and impossible offer, and made the most reckless decision of my life. Yes. The word barely left my lips before Dante was moving. He turned to one of his security men. "Call Romano. Tell him we need everything ready in 45 minutes. The penthouse, the jeweler, everything." To the other, "Bring the car around. Back entrance." Both men nodded and disappeared with military efficiency. Dante took my elbow, his grip firm but not painful, and guided me down a side corridor away from the lobby. "We'll need to move quickly. Once the ceremony ends, they'll be taking photos, then the receiving line. We have maybe 30 minutes before the reception starts. Wait. I dug my heels in, forcing him to stop. 30 minutes? You want to get married in 30 minutes? No. He looked at me like I was being deliberately obtuse. We'll get married tomorrow. Tonight, we're simply creating the appearance that we already are. A ring, the right clothes, the right attitude. No one will question it if we sell it properly. My head was spinning. This is insane. They'll believe what they see, Dante interrupted. And what they'll see is you walking back into that reception on the arm of someone they recognize, someone who matters, someone who makes them question every assumption they've ever made about you. Who are you? I asked for the second time, but with more urgency. Really? We'd reached a service elevator. Dante pressed the button, then finally looked at me directly. I'm someone who makes problems disappear, Elena. Someone who controls territories from here to the East Coast. Someone your ex-fiancé and his new bride will recognize the moment I walk into that ballroom. His voice was matter of fact, like he was discussing the weather. I'm someone they'll fear. The elevator dinged. The doors opened. I couldn't say it. Couldn't process it. Yes. He stepped inside, waiting for me to follow. Now, are you coming, or would you prefer to face them alone? I stepped into the elevator. The descent was silent except for the mechanical hum. Dante stood perfectly still, his posture relaxed, but his eyes constantly moving, tracking, assessing. The two security men had reappeared, flanking us, their hands resting near their jackets in a way that suggested weapons. Oh God. What was I doing? The elevator opened to a parking garage. A sleek black SUV with tinted windows idled near the entrance. Another man in a dark suit behind the wheel. Everything about this screamed organized crime. The vehicles, the security, the military precision. I'd just agreed to marry a mobster. Elena. Dante's voice pulled me from my spiral. If you're going to panic, do it in the car. We're exposed here. He was right. Security cameras dotted the garage ceiling. Anyone could be watching. I let him guide me into the SUV's back seat, sliding in beside him as the door closed with an expensive thunk. The car pulled out immediately, smooth and fast. Where are we going? I asked. My penthouse, 20 minutes from here. Dante was typing something on his phone, his fingers moving with practiced speed. You'll shower, change, meet with the jeweler. Then we return. Just like that. Just like that. He glanced up. Unless you've changed your mind? I should have. Every rational cell in my body was screaming at me to demand he stop the car, let me out, let me escape before whatever insane plan this was consumed me completely. But I thought of Vivian's wink, Patricia's contempt, Marcus's easy laughter. No, I said quietly. I haven't changed my mind. Dante nodded and returned to his phone. For several minutes, we drove in silence through Chicago's downtown, the city lights bleeding past the tinted windows in streaks of gold and white. I watched the streets I'd walked 1,000 times, the diner where I'd worked through college, the bus stop where I'd waited in the rain, the cheap apartment buildings that housed people like me, all of it feeling suddenly distant, like I was already becoming someone else. You'll need a story, Dante said abruptly, for how we met. I turned to him. What? When people ask, and they will, you'll need to explain how a housekeeper's daughter ended up married to me. His tone was clinical, like he was solving a logistics problem. The truth would raise too many questions. What truth? I asked. I don't even know the truth. We met 20 minutes ago in a hotel hallway. Exactly. Which is why we need a better story. He pocketed his phone and gave me his full attention for the first time since we'd entered the car. We'll say we met 3 months ago, after your engagement ended. You were working at a restaurant where I sometimes eat. I noticed you, asked you out. Things progressed quickly. We married last week in a private ceremony. We've kept it quiet because of my business concerns. What restaurant? I asked, my mind struggling to keep up. Bella Nata, on the north side. I own it. Of course he did. And people will believe this? I asked. That you married someone like me? Something dangerous flashed in his eyes. Someone like you. You know what I mean. I'm not... I gestured at the luxury car, at him. I'm not from your world. People will know that immediately. Good. Dante's voice was sharp. Let them see the contrast. Let them wonder. Let them question everything they thought they knew about you. He leaned closer, and I caught that scent again. Leather, cedar, smoke. You're not going back to that reception as my equal, Elena. You're going back as my wife, and in my world. That makes you untouchable. The word sent a shiver through me. Untouchable. How long had I been the opposite? How many times had Marcus touched me carelessly, without thought? How many times had Vivian's casual cruelties landed because I had no protection, no shield, no power? What happens after tonight? I asked quietly. After the revenge? After we've humiliated them the way they humiliated me? Dante was quiet for a long moment. The car turned onto Lakeshore Drive, the black water of Michigan stretching endlessly to our right. We'll discuss terms, he said finally. How long this arrangement lasts, what we both need from it. But that's for tomorrow, after we make this legal. Tonight is about the performance. The performance, I echoed. Yes. He studied me, his gray eyes cataloging every detail of my face like he was memorizing it. You'll need to look at me like you love me. Touch me like you can't help yourself. Smile like I've given you everything you've ever wanted. His voice dropped. Can you do that, Elena? I thought about all the times I'd smiled through double shifts at the diner when my feet were bleeding. All the times I'd pretended Marcus's casual dismissals didn't hurt. All the times I'd acted like I belonged in rooms where everyone knew I didn't. Yes, I said, I can do that. Good. He returned his attention to the window. We're here. The SUV pulled into an underground garage beneath a gleaming high-rise. The building was all glass and steel, the kind of place I'd walked past 100 times without imagining I'd ever enter. We took a private elevator, one that required a key card, up to the top floor. The penthouse was exactly what I'd expected, and somehow more. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the lake. Minimalist furniture in blacks and grays. Art on the walls that was probably worth more than my mother's house. Everything cold, expensive, perfect. This way. Dante led me down a hallway to a master bedroom suite larger than my entire apartment. He opened the walk-in closet, and I actually gasped. Rows of dresses, shelves of shoes, drawers of jewelry, all in my size. How? I started. I had someone acquire a few things, he said dismissively. Choose whatever you want for tonight, something that makes a statement. The shower's through there. He pointed to an ensuite bathroom done entirely in marble and gold fixtures. You have 20 minutes. He left before I could respond, the door closing behind him with a quiet click. I stood alone in that obscene luxury, surrounded by clothes worth more than I'd earned in my entire life, and finally let myself feel the full weight of what I'd just agreed to. I was going to marry a stranger, a criminal, a man whose eyes held violence like some men held pocket change. And then, I was going to walk back into that wedding reception and make Marcus and Vivian regret every moment they'd ever underestimated me. I stripped off my cheap black dress, leaving it in a puddle on the floor, and stepped into the shower. The water was scalding, perfect, washing away 3 months of humiliation and grief. When I emerged 15 minutes later, I felt like a different person. I chose a dress from the closet, a deep emerald silk that hugged every curve, with a neckline just low enough to be daring. Shoes that added 4 inches to my height. Diamond earrings that caught the light like trapped stars. When I looked in the mirror, I barely recognized myself. The bedroom door opened. Dante stood in the doorway, and for the first time since we'd met, his expression shifted. Something heated flickered in those cold gray eyes before he controlled it. Perfect, he said. The jeweler's here. Let's make you a bride. The jeweler was a small, nervous man named Vincent, who set up his velvet cases on Dante's dining table like he was handling religious artifacts. His hands trembled slightly as he opened each box, revealing rings that sparkled under the chandelier light with an intensity that made my breath catch. Mr. Salvatore, Vincent said, his voice deferential, almost fearful. I brought the pieces you requested, the finest we have. Dante stood behind me, close enough that I could feel the heat radiating from him. His hand rested on the small of my back, a possessive gesture that should have made me uncomfortable, but instead sent strange shivers up my spine. "Show her the Cartier," he said. Vincent's hands moved to a burgundy box, opening it to reveal a platinum band encrusted with diamonds that formed an intricate pattern around a center stone so large it seemed obscene. The price tag, had there been one, would probably have funded my mother's retirement. "It's too much," I whispered. "It's perfect." Dante's voice was close to my ear. "Give me your hand." I extended my left hand, watching as if from outside my body as Dante took it in his. His fingers were warm, calloused in ways that suggested violence, and they held mine with surprising gentleness. He slid the ring onto my finger slowly, deliberately, his gray eyes never leaving my face. It fit perfectly. "How did you—" I started. "I'm very good at measuring things," he said, and something in his tone made heat flood my cheeks. He turned to Vincent. "We'll take it. And the matching band." "Of course, Mr. Salvatore. Shall I—" "Leave them. Send the bill to Romano." Dante's dismissal was absolute. Vincent packed his cases with shaking hands and practically ran for the door, one of the security men escorting him out. I stared at the ring on my finger, at the way it caught the light, at how foreign and yet somehow right it looked against my skin. "It's borrowed," I said softly. "All of this. The dress, the ring, this life. None of it's real. Does it matter?" Dante moved to stand in front of me, tilting my chin up with one finger until I met his eyes. "By the time we walk back into that reception, it will be real enough. They'll believe it because they'll want to believe it. Because the alternative, that someone like me would choose someone like you, will haunt them forever." "Someone like me," I repeated, the phrase stinging even from his mouth. His jaw tightened. "I meant that as a compliment. You have something they lack, Elena. Something authentic beneath all their polish and privilege. It's why Marcus was drawn to you in the first place, even if he was too weak to keep you." The unexpected defense caught me off guard. Before I could respond, Dante stepped back, checking his watch again, a gesture I was beginning to realize was a tell, a sign he was calculating, planning, always 3 moves ahead. "We need to go," he said. "The reception will be in full swing by now. We'll make an entrance, stay exactly 45 minutes, and leave. Long enough to be seen, short enough to maintain mystery." "What do I do?" I asked, hating how uncertain I sounded. "You stay close to me. You let me handle anyone who asks questions. And you remember—" His eyes locked onto mine with an intensity that made my pulse race. "You're mine now, at least for tonight. Act like it." The possessiveness in his voice should have terrified me. Instead, it felt like armor. The drive back to the Meridian Grand Hotel took 20 minutes. Dante spent it briefing me on people I might encounter. Names, positions, relationships. He rattled off information with the precision of someone who made it his business to know everyone's secrets. "Patricia Aldridge will try to corner you," he said. "Don't engage. I'll handle her." "Marcus's mother." "Yes. She's connected to several families I do business with. She'll recognize me immediately." A cold smile played at his lips. "She'll also recognize what it means that you're with me." "What does it mean?" I asked. Dante turned those gray eyes on me. "It means you're protected, untouchable. Mine." He said the last word like a brand. "In my world, Elena, that's not something given lightly. People will understand the implications." The SUV pulled up to the hotel's main entrance. Through the tinted windows, I could see guests milling about in the lobby, the same people who'd watched me slink away in shame less than 2 hours ago. My hand started shaking. Dante's hand covered mine, stilling the tremor. "Breathe," he commanded softly. "Remember why we're doing this." I thought of Vivian's wink, Patricia's cruelty, the humiliation burning in my chest like acid. "I'm ready," I lied. "Good." He squeezed my hand once, then released it. "Stay close. Don't speak unless I tell you to. And Elena?" He waited until I looked at him. "Don't let them see fear. Ever." The driver opened my door. Dante exited first, then extended his hand to help me out. a gesture so natural, so proprietary, that several people in the lobby immediately turned to look. I took his hand and stepped onto the red carpet in my borrowed emerald dress and impossible shoes, the diamond ring heavy on my finger, my heart hammering so hard I was certain everyone could hear it. Dante's arm slid around my waist, pulling me against his side. The gesture was possessive, protective, and utterly convincing. We walked through the lobby like we owned it, and maybe in some way I didn't understand Dante did. People stared, whispered. I recognized several faces from the ceremony, saw their expressions shift from curiosity to shock, to something that looked like fear. They recognized him. The ballroom doors stood open, music and laughter spilling out. Dante paused just outside, his hand tightening on my waist. "Last chance to run," he murmured. I thought about running, about the safety of my small apartment, my predictable life, the comfort of invisibility. Then I thought about Vivian's triumphant smile. "Let's go," I said. We walked in together. The reception was exactly as obscenely lavish as I'd expected. Crystal and flowers and champagne towers, guests dancing under twinkling lights, laughter echoing off marble columns. At the center of it all, on a small stage, Marcus and Vivian danced their first dance as husband and wife, her dress billowing around them like clouds, his hand on her waist, both of them radiating happiness. They hadn't seen us yet. Dante guided me to the bar, his presence parting the crowd like Moses with the Red Sea. People moved aside instinctively, their conversations dying mid-sentence as they registered who he was. The bartender's eyes widened, but he took our order without comment. Whiskey for Dante, champagne for me. "Mr. Salvatore." We turned to find an older man in an expensive suit approaching, his expression carefully neutral. "I didn't know you'd be attending this evening, Frank." Dante's tone was cordial but cold. "Last-minute decision. My wife wanted to pay her respects to an old friend." The word wife landed like a bomb. Frank's eyes shot to me, then to the ring on my finger, then back to Dante with barely concealed shock. "Your wife? I hadn't heard you'd married. We kept it private." Dante's arm tightened around my waist. "Elena prefers to stay out of the spotlight. Don't you, darling?" The endearment should have sounded false. Somehow it didn't. "Congratulations," Frank managed, though his eyes were calculating, already trying to figure out what this meant for whatever business he had with Dante. "Mrs. Salvatore." The name sent a jolt through me. Mrs. Salvatore. God, what was I doing? "Thank you," I said, keeping my voice steady. Frank excused himself quickly, already pulling out his phone. Within seconds, I could see the whispers spreading through the crowd like wildfire. Heads turning, phones appearing. The music on the dance floor seemed to dim as more and more people became aware of our presence. And then Vivian saw me. I watched her freeze mid-spin in Marcus's arms, her eyes going wide as they locked onto mine. Then they traveled to Dante, to his arm around my waist, to the massive diamond on my finger, and something that might have been panic flickered across her perfect features. She knew who he was. Marcus followed her gaze, and I had the satisfaction of watching the color drain from his face. He stumbled slightly, nearly stepping on Vivian's dress, his expression shifting from shock to confusion to something that looked almost like fear. The song ended. The dance floor cleared. And Vivian, ever the performer, plastered on a brilliant smile and made her way toward us, Marcus trailing behind like a reluctant shadow. "Elena!" Her voice was pitched perfectly, surprised, delighted, just slightly condescending. "I can't believe you came, and you brought—" Her eyes slid to Dante, and I saw the calculation there, the quick assessment of his suit, his bearing, his obvious danger. "A date." "My husband," I corrected softly, and the word tasted like victory. Vivian's smile froze. "Husband?" "Dante Salvatore," he said, not offering his hand. "And you must be the bride. Congratulations." The temperature in our little circle seemed to drop 10 degrees. Marcus looked like he might be sick. Vivian's mask was cracking at the edges, her eyes darting between Dante and me with increasing panic. "I didn't know you'd gotten married," she said, the words coming out strangled. "When did this—" 3 weeks ago," Dante answered before I could. "Private ceremony. We would have invited you, but His smile was all teeth. "We didn't want to overshadow your special day." The barb landed perfectly. Vivian flinched. "That's wonderful." Marcus finally spoke, his voice hoarse. "Elena, I'm happy for you. Really, you deserve—" He seemed to choke on whatever he was going to say next. "She deserves everything," Dante finished for him, his arm possessive around my waist. "Which is exactly what she'll have. Isn't that right, darling?" He looked down at me, and the intensity in his gray eyes was almost overwhelming. For a moment, I forgot this was an act. Forgot that we were strangers playing a role. His gaze held something raw, something that made my breath catch and my pulse race. "Yes," I whispered. Dante's hand came up to cup my face, his thumb brushing my cheekbone with surprising tenderness. Then he leaned down and kissed me. It was soft, controlled, perfectly appropriate for a public setting. But underneath that control, I felt the promise of something darker, something dangerous. His lips were warm against mine, and the kiss tasted like whiskey and revenge and the edge of something I didn't want to name. When he pulled back, the entire ballroom was staring, including Patricia Aldridge, who looked like she'd been struck by lightning. "Elena," she breathed, appearing at Vivian's side. "What is the meaning of this?" Dante turned to her with glacial politeness. "Mrs. Aldridge, how nice to see you again." "Again?" Patricia's voice was faint. "We've met at several charity functions. Your husband handles some of my legitimate investments." The emphasis on legitimate was subtle, but unmistakable. "I don't believe we've ever been formally introduced, though. I'm Dante Salvatore, Elena's husband." Patricia's face went through several shades of white. She looked at me, really looked at me, and I saw the exact moment she understood what had happened. The girl she'd dismissed as worthless, inappropriate, beneath her son, was now married to someone she feared. "I see," she managed. "Well, this is unexpected." "Life is full of surprises," Dante said pleasantly. "If you'll excuse us, I'd like to dance with my wife." He guided me toward the dance floor before anyone could respond, leaving Patricia, Vivian, and Marcus standing frozen in our wake. The dance floor felt like a stage, every eye in the ballroom tracking our movement as Dante pulled me into his arms. His hand settled on my waist with possessive certainty, while the other captured mine, his grip firm and warm. The orchestra had shifted to something slow and intimate, probably meant for the newlyweds. But Dante had claimed it like he claimed everything else, without asking, without apology. "You're trembling," he murmured, his lips close to my ear. "Everyone's staring," I whispered back. "Good. Let them stare." He pulled me closer, eliminating the polite distance between our bodies. "Let them see exactly what they lost." We moved together across the floor, and despite everything, the insanity of this situation, the danger radiating from the man holding me, the fact that this was all an elaborate lie, I couldn't deny that we fit. His movements were controlled, practiced, leading me through steps I barely knew with effortless grace. Where did a mobster learn to dance like this? The question slipped out before I could stop it. His lips curved slightly. My mother insisted on lessons. She believed that power without refinement was merely brutality. Something dark passed through his eyes. She was wrong, but the lesson stuck. "Was?" I asked softly. "She's been gone 15 years. His voice was flat, emotionless. "Killed by someone who thought I'd be easier to control without her influence." The casual way he said it, like discussing the weather, sent ice through my veins. "I'm sorry." "Don't be." I made sure they regretted that assumption. He spun me suddenly, my dress flaring, then pulled me back against his chest. "Just as Marcus and his bride will regret what they've done to you." Over Dante's shoulder, I could see Vivian and Marcus at their head table, surrounded by bridesmaids and groomsmen. They weren't celebrating anymore. Vivian kept glancing in our direction, her smile brittle, while Marcus looked like he wanted to disappear into the floor. Patricia stood near them, her phone pressed to her ear, her expression thunderous. She was making calls, trying to find out who Dante really was, what his presence here meant. "She's scared," I observed. "She should be." Dante's hand tightened on my waist. Patricia Aldridge has spent years building connections with families like mine, playing both sides, thinking her society status protects her. Seeing you with me shatters her entire worldview. Because I'm not good enough? The old wound throbbed. Because you are. His gray eyes caught mine, and the intensity there stole my breath. You survived poverty, loss, betrayal, and still came to this wedding with your head high. That takes more strength than any of these people will ever possess. He leaned closer, his voice dropping to something almost dangerous. Patricia dismissed you as weak. Now she's realizing you're the one person in this room she should have feared. The music swelled around us. Other couples had joined the dance floor, but they kept a careful distance, as if afraid to come too close to Dante's orbit. I caught glimpses of familiar faces. Marcus's colleagues from the investment firm, Vivian's sorority sisters, all the people who'd whispered about me, pitied me, forgotten me. Now they couldn't look away. How long do we have to stay? I asked. Another 20 minutes. Dante guided me through a turn, long enough to make the impression permanent. Then we leave, and tomorrow we make this official. Tomorrow. The reality of what I'd agreed to came crashing back. About that, not here. His tone brooked no argument. We'll discuss terms at my penthouse tonight after we're done with this performance. But Elena... He waited until I met his eyes. Whatever arrangement we come to, whatever this becomes, you need to understand something. When I commit to something, I don't do it halfway. If you're going to be my wife, even temporarily, you'll be protected like my wife, treated like my wife, and anyone who tries to hurt you will answer to me. Is that clear? The promise should have terrified me. Instead, something warm and dangerous unfurled in my chest. Yes, I whispered. The song ended. Dante released me slowly, his fingers trailing along my waist in a gesture that felt far too intimate for strangers. Before I could process it, Vivian appeared at his elbow, her smile bright and false. I'm sorry to interrupt, she said, though her tone suggested she wasn't sorry at all. But I was hoping to steal Elena for a moment. Girl talk, you understand. Every instinct screamed at me to refuse. But Dante's hand squeezed mine once, a warning or encouragement, I couldn't tell, before he stepped back. Of course, he said smoothly. I'll get us drinks. Elena? Champagne? I nodded, not trusting my voice. Vivian looped her arm through mine with false intimacy, steering me toward a quiet corner near the windows overlooking the city. Her nails dug into my skin just hard enough to hurt. What the hell are you doing? She hissed the moment we were out of earshot. I pulled my arm free. I don't know what you mean. Don't play stupid, Elena. Dante Salvatore? Really? Her eyes were wild now, the perfect bride mask completely gone. Do you have any idea who he is? What he does? My husband, I said simply, holding up my ring hand. Vivian's face contorted. You can't be serious. You married him? When? This is some kind of sick joke to ruin my wedding, isn't it? Not everything is about you, Vivian. The words came out sharper than I intended. Though I understand why you'd think that, given how much effort you put into ruining my life. I didn't ruin anything, she snapped. Marcus and I fell in love. You were just too blind to see that you never really had him. The cruelty was breathtaking. You were my best friend. I was your charity case, Vivian shot back. Do you know how exhausting it was, pretending to care about your little problems? Your student loans, your sick mother, your pathetic attempts to fit in with Marcus's friends? She laughed, the sound brittle. I did you a favor, Elena. Marcus would have gotten bored and left you eventually. At least this way, you gotta keep some dignity. Dignity? I repeated, my voice shaking. You invited me to your wedding to humiliate me. You winked at me walking down the aisle like this was all some game you'd won. Because I did win. Vivian's composure shattered completely. I got Marcus. I got the life we both wanted. I got everything you dreamed about while you were scrubbing tables at that disgusting diner. And now you show up here with some criminal, thinking you can make me jealous, thinking anyone here believes that someone like Dante Salvatore would actually want someone like you? The words hit like physical blows. because she was voicing every doubt screaming in my head, every fear that this was too good to be true, that Dante's interest, whatever it was, couldn't possibly be real, that I was still the same worthless girl they'd all dismissed. Careful. Dante's voice cut through the air like a blade. I hadn't heard him approach, but suddenly he was there, pressing a champagne flute into my hand, while his other arm circled my waist. The casual gesture was a clear warning. Vivian paled. Mr. Salvatore, I didn't mean— Yes, you did. His voice was pleasant, conversational, and absolutely terrifying. You meant every word, which is why I think it's important to clarify something. He pulled me tighter against his side. Elena is my wife. That means an insult to her is an insult to me, and I have very particular ways of handling insults. We were friends. I was only— Vivian stumbled over her words. You were cruel to someone I care about. Dante's smile never reached his eyes. I'd suggest you spend the rest of your wedding celebration being very grateful that I'm in a generous mood tonight. Because if I hear that you've spoken to or about Elena with anything less than respect, I'll take a personal interest in your new husband's business ventures. I understand he just made partner at Whitmore and Associates? Vivian's face went chalk white. Yes. Interesting firm. They handle several accounts connected to families I work with. It would be unfortunate if those connections were severed. If Marcus found himself suddenly unemployable in this city. Dante tilted his head slightly. But I'm sure that won't be necessary, will it? No. Vivian whispered. No, of course not. Excellent. Dante's smile widened. Congratulations on your marriage. I hope you both find exactly what you deserve. The threat embedded in those words was unmistakable. Vivian fled back toward Marcus without another word, her designer dress trailing behind her like a funeral shroud. I stared up at Dante, my hands shaking around the champagne flute. You didn't have to. Yes, I did. His expression softened slightly. She needed to understand that you're protected now. They all do. He glanced around the ballroom, at the whispers and stares still following us. We've made our point. Let's go. Already? You've had enough. It wasn't a question. Dante could apparently read me better in one evening than Marcus had in 2 years. Come. He guided me through the ballroom, his hand never leaving my waist. People parted for us like water around a ship's bow. I caught a glimpse of Patricia near the exit, her face twisted with fury and fear. Marcus and Vivian at their table looking shell-shocked, the bridesmaids and groomsmen whispering frantically amongst themselves. We'd destroyed their perfect wedding night. The realization should have made me feel guilty. Instead, I felt powerful. The SUV was waiting at the entrance, engine running. Dante helped me inside with the same proprietary care he'd shown all evening, then slid in beside me. The door closed, sealing us in leather-scented darkness. Your place or mine? He asked, a hint of dark humor in his voice. Yours, I said without thinking. My apartment is not appropriate for this conversation. This conversation being the one where we discuss the terms of our arrangement. Yes. Dante pulled out his phone, typed something quickly, then pocketed it. Then we'll talk at the penthouse. There's food waiting, wine if you need it, and privacy. By tomorrow afternoon we'll be married legally. But tonight, we negotiate what that actually means. The car pulled away from the hotel, from Marcus and Vivian's shattered celebration, from the life I'd left behind. Chicago streaked past the windows, buildings and lights, and the dark promise of Lake Michigan in the distance. Thank you, I said quietly, for what you said to Vivian, for defending me. Dante was quiet for a long moment. When he finally spoke, his voice was rougher than usual. No one talks to you like that, not anymore. Not while you're mine. But I'm not really yours, I said. This is just an arrangement, a performance. He turned to look at me then, and something in his expression made my breath catch. Is it? He asked softly. Because from where I'm sitting, Elena, the performance felt remarkably real. I didn't have an answer for that. We drove in silence through the city, the weight of everything that had happened, and everything about to happen, settling over us like fog. Tomorrow, I would legally marry a stranger, a criminal, a man whose world was built on violence and shadows and secrets I couldn't begin to understand. Tomorrow, Elena Reyes would cease to exist, and Elena Salvatore would be born. The penthouse was exactly as I'd left it. Cold, expensive, perfect. But now it felt different. Now it felt like a trap closing around me. Beautiful and inescapable. Dante led me to the living room where, true to his word, food waited on the coffee table. Elegant appetizers, wine, chocolate-covered strawberries that probably cost more than my weekly grocery budget. He poured us both wine, handed me a glass, then sat across from me in a leather chair that seemed designed to emphasize his size, his power, his control. "So," he said, swirling the wine in his glass, "let's talk about what you're actually agreeing to." My stomach clenched. "I'm listening." "Marriage contract, 1 year minimum. You'll live here, play the role of my wife in public, attend events at my side when required. In exchange, you'll have access to my accounts, security, and all the privileges that come with my name." He took a sip of wine, his eyes never leaving my face. "Your mother's medical bills will be paid. Her house will be cleared of debt. You'll never have to work another shift at that diner or worry about making rent." The offer was staggering, life-changing, terrifying. "What do you get out of it?" I asked. Dante set down his glass, leaning forward with his elbows on his knees. "Legitimacy, respectability, the kind of image that makes prosecutors think twice before investigating me." His jaw tightened. "And something more personal that I'm not ready to discuss yet. That's not fair." "No," he agreed, "but it's the truth. In time, if you stay, if this arrangement works, I'll tell you. But not tonight." I should have pushed, should have demanded answers. But looking at him, at the shadows in his eyes, the tension in his shoulders, the carefully controlled pain, I found myself nodding instead. 1 year, I repeated, minimum. If either of us wants out after that, we divorce quietly. You keep a generous settlement, I keep my reputation, we both move on. And if something happens before then? If you get arrested or killed or... I won't be. His confidence was absolute, but if the impossible occurs, you'll be provided for. Everything protected by prenuptial agreement. It was too much. Too fast. Too overwhelming. I need to think, I said. You have until morning. Dante stood, his tall frame towering over me. The guest bedroom is down the hall. Everything you need is there. We'll go to the courthouse at noon, sign papers, make it legal. And then, Elena, you'll be mine in every way that matters. The possessiveness in his voice sent shivers down my spine. Good night, I whispered. Good night, future Mrs. Salvatore. He said it like a promise, or a threat. I fled to the guest room, closed the door, and finally, let myself fall apart. I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Vivian's face draining of color, Marcus's shock, Patricia's fear. I heard Dante's voice promising violence in the same tone most people discussed the weather. I felt the weight of the ring on my finger, heavy as chains, beautiful as poison. At 6 a.m., I gave up pretending and wandered into the kitchen. Dawn was breaking over Lake Michigan, painting the water in shades of gold and blood. The penthouse was silent except for the hum of expensive appliances and the distant sound of the city waking below. I made coffee, finding everything I needed in cabinets that probably cost more than my car, and stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, watching the sun climb higher. You're up early. I spun to find Dante in the doorway, wearing only black pajama pants that hung low on his hips. In the soft morning light, I could see what his suits had hidden. The tattoos covering his torso and arms, intricate patterns that looked like they told stories written in ink and violence. Scars crossed his ribs, his shoulder, his abdomen, each one a testament to a life I couldn't fathom. I couldn't sleep, I admitted, clutching my coffee mug like a lifeline. He moved into the kitchen with predatory grace, pouring his own coffee. Second thoughts? About 100 of them. I turned back to the window. This is insane, you know. Everything about this. Yes. His honesty startled me. I glanced over my shoulder to find him watching me with those unreadable gray eyes. "Then why are we doing it?" I asked. Dante was quiet for a long moment, steam rising from his mug. When he finally spoke, his voice was rougher than usual, because sometimes insanity is the only sane response to an insane world. He moved to stand beside me at the window. "You were destroyed by people who claimed to love you. I've been destroyed by people who claimed loyalty. We both know what betrayal tastes like, Elena. Maybe that's why this," he gestured between us, "makes more sense than it should. You still haven't told me what you really want from this," I said softly. His jaw tightened. "No, I haven't." "Will you? Ever, if you stay long enough?" He took a sip of coffee. "If you prove you can be trusted with the kind of secrets that get people killed." The casual mention of death should have sent me running. Instead, I found myself asking, "What happened to make you this way?" Something flickered in his eyes, pain, rage, grief, all gone too quickly to name. The man who killed my mother was someone I trusted, someone I considered family. His voice was flat, emotionless. He took her from me because he wanted to take control of my father's territory, thought I was too young, too soft, too attached to her gentle influence. "What did you do?" I whispered. I proved him right about one thing. I was attached to her influence. Dante's smile was cold, terrible. And then I proved him wrong about everything else. I took his territory, his money, his family, and his life. In that order. I made sure he understood exactly what his mistake cost before I ended him. I should have been horrified, should have put down my coffee, walked out, called the police, done something to distance myself from this man and his casual admissions of murder. But all I could think was, he loved his mother that much. "I'm sorry," I said, "for your loss." Dante looked at me like I'd spoken a foreign language. Most people would be running by now. I'm not most people. I took a sip of coffee, considering. Besides, you've been honest with me. Brutally honest. That's more than Marcus ever was. Marcus is a coward. Dante's voice dripped contempt. He pretended to love you while betraying you with your best friend. He let his mother dictate his choices and convinced himself he was being practical. Men like that disgust me, but men like you, who kill people, they don't. I never pretend to be something I'm not. His gray eyes locked onto mine. I'm a criminal, Elena. I hurt people. I break laws. I operate in shadows most people pretend don't exist. But I don't lie about it. I don't make promises I won't keep. And I don't betray the people under my protection. Is that what I am now? Under your protection? Yes. The word was absolute. From the moment you agreed to this arrangement, you became mine to protect. That's not negotiable. The possessiveness should have frightened me. Instead, after months of being nobody's priority, being nobody's concern, it felt like coming home. "Okay," I said quietly. Dante's eyebrows rose. "Okay? I'll do it. The marriage, the arrangement, all of it." I set down my coffee mug with deliberate care. 1 year. We see if this works. And if it doesn't, we walk away clean. Elena. He turned to face me fully. "You understand what you're agreeing to? This isn't just playing dress-up at society events. You'll be married to someone the FBI watches, someone rival families want dead, someone whose business involves things you can never speak about. Your life will be in danger simply by association." "My life was already small and meaningless," I said. "Maybe danger is an improvement." Something shifted in his expression. Surprise, respect, something that might have been desire. "You're either very brave or very foolish." "Probably both." I managed a shaky smile. "When do we leave for the courthouse?" 11:30. "That gives you time to shower, eat, prepare yourself." He reached out, his fingers brushing my cheek with unexpected gentleness. "Last chance to run, Elena." I thought about my studio apartment with its peeling paint and broken heater. About my mother's medical bills stacking up on my kitchen table. About Marcus and Vivian's faces last night. The shock and fear and sudden understanding that I wasn't who they thought I was. About the way Dante had defended me without hesitation, threatened violence on my behalf, looked at me like I mattered. "I'm not running," I said. His hand cupped my face fully now, his thumb tracing my cheekbone. Then understand this. Once we sign those papers, once you take my name, you're mine. Not just for show, not just for appearances. Mine. Can you handle that? Every rational part of my brain was screaming warnings, but the part that had survived poverty and loss and betrayal, the part that had walked into that wedding reception with my head high despite everything, that part whispered, "Yes, yes," I said aloud. Dante's eyes darkened. For a moment, I thought he might kiss me. Really kiss me. Not the controlled performance from the reception. But instead, he released me and stepped back. "Get ready," he said, his voice rough. "We have a wedding to attend." 3 hours later, I stood in the Cook County Courthouse wearing a cream-colored dress from Dante's mysteriously well-stocked closet, my hand in his, repeating vows in front of a bored clerk and 2 of Dante's security men serving as witnesses. "Do you, Elena Maria Reyes, take this man to be your lawfully wedded husband?" I looked at Dante, at his sharp suit and dangerous eyes, at the man who was either my salvation or my destruction, and said, "I do." "Do you, Dante Salvatore, take this woman to be your lawfully wedded wife?" "I do." His voice was steady, certain, absolute. "By the power vested in me by the state of Illinois, I now pronounce you husband and wife." The clerk stamped our marriage certificate without ceremony. "You may kiss the bride." Dante pulled me close, his hand sliding into my hair, tilting my face up to his. "Last chance," he murmured against my lips. "Stop giving me outs," I whispered back. He smiled, genuinely smiled, and then kissed me. It wasn't like the performance at the reception. This was claiming, possessive, a promise sealed with heat and hunger. His lips demanded submission even as they offered protection. His hands held me like I was something precious and breakable and entirely his. When we finally broke apart, I was breathless, dizzy, completely lost. "Welcome to the family, Mrs. Salvatore," Dante said softly. The next few weeks passed in a blur of surreal luxury and mounting danger. Dante was right. Being his wife meant stepping into a world I'd never imagined. Dinners with men whose names I recognized from FBI wanted posters. Charity galas where diamonds glittered alongside barely concealed weapons. Quiet conversations that ended when I entered rooms, secrets layered on secrets like sedimentary rock, but it also meant safety, security guards who followed me everywhere. Accounts with more money than I'd earn in 10 lifetimes. My mother's medical bills paid in full, her house renovated, her tears of gratitude when I told her I'd married someone who cared about family. I'd lied about how we met, told her the restaurant story Dante created. She'd believed it because she wanted to. Because after years of struggle, she desperately needed to believe her daughter had finally found happiness. Had I? I wasn't sure. Dante was complicated. In public, he was the perfect husband. Attentive, protective, possessive in ways that made other men back away from me immediately. In private, he was distant, controlled, keeping walls between us that I couldn't breach. He never asked me to share his bed. The arrangement was clear. Separate rooms, separate lives. A marriage of convenience that looked real from the outside, but remained hollow within. It should have been enough. It was certainly more than I'd had before. But late at night, lying in my expensive guest room, I found myself wondering what it would be like if this were real, if the heat in Dante's eyes when he looked at me meant something beyond ownership, if his possessiveness stemmed from desire rather than pride, if I was falling for a man who would never let me in. Everything changed 6 weeks after the wedding. I was shopping on Michigan Avenue, accompanied by 2 security guards, because Dante insisted, when I saw him. Marcus. Walking out of a coffee shop with his briefcase, his face drawn and tired, he saw me at the same moment, froze on the sidewalk like he'd seen a ghost. "Elena," he breathed. I should have kept walking. Should have let my security guards move me along, should have maintained the cold distance that Dante would have expected. But something in Marcus's expression, something broken and desperate, made me pause. "Marcus, can we talk?" He glanced at my guards. "Just for a minute, please." Against my better judgment, I nodded. We moved to a bench in a small plaza, the guards maintaining distance but staying alert. Marcus sat beside me, his hands clasped between his knees, looking nothing like the confident man who'd left me 3 months ago. "You look good," he said finally. "Happy." "Thank you. Are you happy?" His eyes met mine, and I saw real pain there. Or is this just revenge? I considered lying, but after everything, I owed him at least honesty. "It started as revenge," I admitted, "but it's become something more complicated." "Do you love him?" Marcus's voice cracked. "Salvatore?" The question pierced something deep inside me. Did I? Could I love someone who kept so many secrets, who lived in violence, who held me at arm's length even as he claimed me as his? "I don't know," I said softly. "Do you love Vivian?" Marcus's laugh was bitter. "I thought I did. Turns out she loved my family's money more than she loved me. She's already talking about expanding the house, joining new clubs, spending more than we make." He rubbed his face. "I made a mistake, Elena. A huge one. And I'm sorry. I'm so sorry." "I know," I said, and I did. I could see it written all over him, the regret, the realization that he'd traded something real for something hollow. "If you ever want out," Marcus started. "I don't." The words came out before I'd fully thought them through, but once spoken, I knew they were true. Whatever this is with Dante, it's mine. I chose it. I'm choosing it. Marcus nodded slowly. "He'll hurt you eventually. Men like him always do." I stood, smoothing down my designer dress, one of dozens now hanging in my closet. "But at least he's honest about it. That's more than I can say for you." I walked away before he could respond, my guards falling into step beside me, but Marcus's question echoed in my head for the rest of the day. "Do you love him?" I found Dante in his study that evening, surrounded by paperwork and laptop screens, his face illuminated by the cold glow of monitors. He looked up when I entered, his expression shifting from concentration to concern. "What's wrong?" he asked immediately. "I saw Marcus today." Dante's entire body went still. "Dangerous. Did he touch you?" "No. We just talked." I moved into the room, drawn by something I couldn't name. "He asked if I loved you. And?" Dante's voice was carefully neutral, but I saw tension in his shoulders, in the way his hands gripped the desk. I didn't know what to tell him. I stopped in front of the desk, meeting those gray eyes that had haunted my dreams for weeks. "Because I don't know what this is. You've given me everything. Safety, security, revenge, a life I never dreamed of. But you won't let me in. You won't tell me what you really want from this. You won't. I want you." The words exploded from him like they'd been held back too long. "I've wanted you from the moment I saw you crying in that hallway, looking broken and beautiful and so fucking strong despite everything they'd done to you." I stared at him, shocked into silence. Dante stood, moving around the desk with predatory grace. "You think this was just about legitimacy? About image?" He laughed, the sound harsh. "I have a dozen ways to improve my reputation, Elena. I didn't need to marry you for that. Then why?" "Because 6 months ago, I lost someone." His voice went rough. "My younger sister. She was killed by a rival family as a message to me. She was innocent, good, everything I'm not. And when she died, something in me died too." My chest tightened. "Dante, I was going to that wedding to finalize a business deal with Patricia Aldridge's husband. Nothing more. But then I saw you, running from your pain, broken by people who should have protected you. And I saw Sophia in you. That strength, that refusal to be completely destroyed, even when you had every right to give up." His hand came up to cup my face. "I wanted to save you the way I couldn't save her. Wanted to give you the protection I failed to give Sophia. That's what I get from this arrangement, Elena. The chance to do right by someone who deserves it." Tears burned my eyes. "That's why you knew my size, why the closet was stocked. You had someone research me. The moment I saw you, I had Romano find out everything, who you were, what you'd lost, what you needed." His thumb brushed away a tear. "I knew you'd say yes, because I knew how badly they'd hurt you. And I knew I could give you the revenge you deserved while keeping you safe. It was supposed to be simple. "What changed?" I whispered. "You." His forehead rested against mine. "You were supposed to be a project, a way to assuage my guilt. But you became something else, something I didn't expect, and now I don't know how to keep you at arm's length anymore." "Then don't." I pulled back enough to meet his eyes. "Stop protecting me from yourself, Dante. I chose this. I choose you. Whatever that means." "It means danger," he warned. "It means violence and secrets and a life where one mistake could get you killed. It also means not being alone anymore." I pressed my hand over his heart, feeling it hammer beneath my palm. "It means being seen, being valued, being chosen. That's worth the risk." Dante's control shattered. He kissed me like he was drowning and I was air, his hands tangling in my hair, his body pressing me back against the desk. This wasn't performance or possession. This was hunger, need, desperation held back for too long. When we finally broke apart, both breathless, he pressed his forehead to mine again. "I can't promise you safety," he said roughly. "I can't promise you normal, but I can promise you this. You'll never be invisible again. You'll never be dismissed or discarded or treated like you don't matter. Because you matter to me, Elena, more than you should. More than is smart." "Then we're both fools," I said, smiling through tears. "Yes." He kissed me again, softer this time. "We are." 6 months later, I stood at another window overlooking Lake Michigan, watching the sun set over the city that had once represented all my broken dreams. So much had changed. My mother was healthy, living in a renovated house with a garden she'd always wanted. Marcus and Vivian had divorced. His firm had mysteriously lost several major clients, and the financial strain proved too much for their shallow marriage. Patricia Aldridge no longer spoke to me at social events, which suited me perfectly, and Dante. Strong arms wrapped around me from behind, pulling me back against a solid chest. I leaned into Dante's embrace, his lips finding the sensitive spot below my ear. "What are you thinking about?" he murmured. "How strange life is," I said. "A year ago, I was invisible, disposable. Now I'm married to the most dangerous man in Chicago, and somehow I've never felt safer." "You are safe." His arms tightened possessively. "Anyone who threatens you dies. It's that simple." I should have been horrified by the casual promise of murder. Instead, I turned in his arms, wrapping mine around his neck. "I love you," I said. Simple, true, terrifying. Dante's expression softened in ways he only allowed when we were alone. "I know. I've known for months. I was just waiting for you to figure it out." "Arrogant," I accused, but I was smiling. "Accurate." He kissed me slowly, thoroughly. "I love you too, Elena Salvatore. More than I thought I was capable of loving anyone. You saved me as much as I saved you." "We saved each other," I corrected. "Yes." His smile was genuine, warm, the expression I'd learned to treasure because he shared it so rarely. We did. Outside, the city glittered with lights, each one representing a life, a story, 1,000 possibilities. Somewhere out there, Marcus was learning to live with his regrets. Vivian was scrambling to maintain her status without his family's money. Patricia was coming to terms with the fact that the girl she'd dismissed now held more power than she'd ever imagined. And here, in this penthouse above it all, I stood in the arms of a man who chose me, protected me, loved me with the same intensity he brought to everything else in his violent, complicated life. The arrangement was supposed to last 1 year. Instead, it had become forever. "No regrets?" Dante asked softly, reading my thoughts as he often did. I thought about the woman who'd walked into that wedding 6 months ago, broken, invisible, desperate for anything to ease the pain. I thought about the man who'd offered her an impossible choice and made it possible. "No regrets," I said firmly. "This is exactly where I'm supposed to be." Dante kissed me again, and in that kiss was every promise he'd made and kept. Protection, possession, love wrapped in violence and sealed with truth. We were both damaged, both dangerous in our own ways, both exactly what the other needed. The girl Marcus dismissed had become a queen in the underworld, and she'd never been happier.
That bred this year. Oh my god. What kind of finches were they, Zachariah? Do you know? And thank you guys for the hype train, angels. Does the acrylic pen shaking mechanism work? I think so. You can hear it. Do you have most of your old VODs? Yes, I do, dear. Yes. I actually, that's what this goal bar is for. Because I need to get a big old frickin' hard drive, because I looked and it's like I have like already a terabyte of VODs on my PC, and I would love to maneuver them away from my PC. Yeah, wild. I know, they're so big. Some of them are like 15 gig. I'm like, is there no way for them to be smaller? Can't I download a smaller version? Left foot, red. I wonder if it's a shuttle moving in the barrel of the pen. Properly mix the paint around, but still give an opening for the paint to move to the tip. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know what it is. Is it just, is it two? Ball and rattle spray paint. Yeah, I don't know. Front butt always left unread with front butt red. That was so fun and stupid. Thank you guys for hanging out there. Goose, thank you for this tweak. That was so silly and funny. You could convert the file to make them smaller. Interesting. Hi, Carson and Cousin. Thank you for the stream. My watch stream keeps